live now. Episode 5 of Read Between the Lines. I'm your host, Q. No, I'm Daniel. He's Q.
Yeah.
Man, we just had some technical difficulties. We started recording. We got about 4 minutes worth of stuff, and then I come to realize that nothing was actually recording. So we had to kind of stop everything and, roll it back. So obviously you guys don't know what we're talking about because nothing got recorded, but basically we're talking about Coachella and the fact that Will Smith kind of came out, out of nowhere to do this surprise performance with Balvin, which is his reggaeton player. I'm sure a lot of you guys know.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of commenting on the performance and the fact that, Will Smith looks good. I mean, even though, what is he like, mid-50s or something?
Will Smith was Will Smithing. Which I mean, he always do though. I mean, you got to give it to him.
I mean, he had the black suit, Men in Black. That was a song that he was performing.
Right.
And I was like, dang, he still got it.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool to see him out there. Obviously he's been kind of laying low, since the whole, Chris Rock situation and, what went down with that, which that was crazy in and of itself.
Yeah. That was a moment.
Now, I obviously we didn't have a podcast at the time, so, I don't really know what your thoughts were on that situation. Were you watching the Oscars? Were you watching the Oscars that night when that happened, or did you just catch everything the next day like everybody else?
The next day.
Oh yeah.
I never watched the Oscars. I think Oscars are boring.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either. I don't think most people watched it either.
No, they didn't.
But yeah, man, I thought it was like some kind of prank or something, like some kind of like, skit or something that they did in the middle of the show. But
no, that wasn't no skit,
dude. And like you could hear that too.
Yeah.
And the way he just sat back down, like nothing happened, and just like carried on.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course Chris Rock, he just kind of like
wow.
He just kind of took it and just kind of
he didn't
kept
have
the show
no choice.
rolling.
It was live TV.
Well, I mean, yeah. But yeah, man, that was wild. And of course, he still got the the Oscar for King Richard.
Right.
Which I don't know if you've seen that movie.
No, I didn't.
He just messed up the
I sure did. Wow.
But you ain't seen that movie?
Mm-mm.
I actually watched it. I don't know. It's been several months, but it's actually pretty good. Actually, I can see why he was nominated and actually he won, because he actually did a good job on that. But
honestly, I don't even know what that's about.
Well, it's about the life of Richard Williams, the dad of Serena and Venus Williams.
Okay. Now I remember seeing some advertising about that now.
Yeah, so it just talks about how he, what do you call it? I guess taught them how to play tennis and coached them, and pretty much, was like their mentor and got them to the point that they are, at least in their tennis career. So it's pretty cool to see, like from a dad's perspective or a father's perspective, like what it took to get them to that point. Now, obviously, a lot of it, some of it is kind of dramatized for the movies or whatever, but it was pretty good. You really got an insight into not only his mindset, but what it takes to be great. I mean, like these girls, man, obviously they were talented, but at the same time, the grind that he would put them through, it was pretty cool.
Right. Interesting.
But yeah, so watching him, at Coachella, I was like, yeah, I mean, Will still got it, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like that whole situation kind of put a damper on his career a little bit.
What situation?
At the Oscars.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. Well, I mean, to be honest, if he was first starting out, maybe. But he got too much. His craft. He got, from Fresh Prince Bel-Air, Men in Black, just to name a few, Pursuit of Happiness. Like, the list goes on and on and on. So that one little small hiccup does not stop him. If it did, he wouldn't be performing at the Coachella, or he wouldn't be getting ready for the new Men in Black. Or not Men in Black, but Boys to Men. What is it?
Bad Boys?
Bad Boys, yeah. Something with boys, yeah. So he's working on that, I know. So, that didn't, anything is just keeping relevant, if you ask me.
Well,
so,
I personally, I feel like I'm still going to like him regardless, for all those things that you said.
Right.
But, man, I just can't help but like to think that, what the heck is going on with Jada, man? I feel like Jada's the one that's kind of like messing it up for him. I know that he's a ride or die for her and vice versa. And kudos for those that are in those type of relationships. But the things that she talks about with her entanglements and all this stuff in the past, and the way she, she hasn't said nothing in a while, which is good. But the fact that she even brought all that stuff and then brought him to, talking about Will Smith, to the red table to talk about it, like, why do we need to know about all this? And like, I don't know. And then she came out with a book and where she was detailing a lot of this stuff once again.
I do remember that, yeah.
Talking about Tupac and, being her first love and this and that. I'm like, okay, I get it, but you're married, you're with somebody else. Why you gotta talk about this dude? Like, I know he was a big figure, but one, he's dead, and two, whatever you say, he can't say nothing back because he's not here to refute it or confirm it or whatever. And I don't know. I feel like in that regard, I feel like Will Smith's been taking some L's.
I think really, when it comes to Jada Pickett, I think it's almost if it's like a competition. When you got two huge stars in one house, you got Jada Pickett and you got Will Smith. So most of the time, when you look at the couple on the red carpet, you notice Will Smith, and it's almost as if she has to work extra hard for people to notice her. So I think sometimes it's just an ego. It's an ego struck because people want to be seen. So they doing their best. Like if Will Smith got these movies coming out, he got these shows, he got comedy, he got so much stuff out there, and Jada picking all the things she has is a round table. What do you call it? Round table? Table talk, whatever she got.
Yeah. Well,
and she got other stuff too as well. But I think sometimes they fight to try to stay relevant, to stay in the people's mouth, whether it's good stuff, bad stuff, situations, whatever the case may be. Like, she wants people to know that, hey, I still got it. I'm Jada Pickett. Like,
But that's the thing. She ain't got it. That's the thing about it is, like, I remember in the 90s, she was in all those movies, Set It Off, and all these other movies, which are classics. And of course, she's got the kids, and they've kind of sort of created their own lanes, for better or for worse. But when we think of the Smiths, it's all about Will, really. And I feel like, why, I don't know. If you're in a relationship, I don't feel like you need to be in competition, and I don't know that he necessarily feels like he's competing with her, But it does feel like you said, like
Yeah,
she's trying to
that's what it
compete with
is.
him,
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
like,
what it is.
that's
Because not only on top of that, then she has alopecia.
mhm.
You know, so she's it, at some point there are some type of a level where she just self-esteem issues because number one, you're a woman and you're getting older, so you're not in the same lane as the vibrant young females. You know, your husband still got it. I mean, he's traveling, he's on the Oscars, he's producing, he's doing this and he's doing that, and you're becoming to be Will Smith's wife versus Jada Pinkett Smith. So when they
But there's
see
nothing
her,
wrong with that, though.
we say that, but that's not probably how she feels. And so for her being a black woman, she wants to stand up for her rights and say that I'm powerful and then I have a voice to be heard as well. I'm not just the mom of the children or the wife of the superhero husband. I mean, I got craft, I got ideas. So I I have a lot going on too. It's me. Hear me out. So that's what I think. Really, there's an ego issue
Yeah.
because he's always on the headline. Whether it's something going on, you're gonna see Will Smith. And
Yeah.
to this day, like
And even though his movies haven't been hitting that much, and he's not necessarily like a blockbuster hit maker anymore per se. And he kind of, especially during COVID, like he kind of switched everything to social media and like his Instagram. You would see all these like funny videos and stuff he was doing on there.
I do remember that. Yeah,
And so he kind of sort of recreated himself doing all these things online through social media. You got to see a whole different side of him that you weren't used to.
right.
And at the same time, he's still got these movies from time to time that'll premiere or whatever. And I don't have a problem with Jada Pinkett, for example, if she wants to have whatever projects that she's working on or whatever. That's cool. But don't do it at the expense of your husband. Don't put him on blast by bringing up all this stuff that you've got going on the side. And I feel that's where it gets crazy, because it's like, okay, you want your own shine, you want to be known for things, then do things, but don't do it at the expense of where your husband looks crazy out here and people are clowning him on social media and all these like memes and stuff they're making out of him. Like, that's the part that's kind of crazy to me when it comes to that.
But if she didn't have those moments of like what she did to Will Smith, what else would she have?
Well, then don't have nothing at all.
She gonna have something, Daniel. Now she's not gonna sit back and just make homemade cornbread and
you know what? Go make a movie. Go write a book or something. But
she did the book.
But why does the book have to include all these things, all these salacious things, that put him in a bad light, that make him look like like he's a sucker, like he's just like, and that's the part that bother a lot of people, where like, dang, like, Jada she's really out here clowning Will. And I'm not saying she doesn't have the right to do things and have projects and stuff like that, but dang, don't put your man down in the process. That's my thing.
Maybe she think he's soft. I don't know.
And you know what? A lot of people do think he's soft, because of that. Because ain't too many people that will put up with it. And unfortunately, like, I get it when you say, for better or for worse, that it's for better or for worse. So I'll give him credit for that he's willing to put up with the good and the bad. But the fact that she's become, in my opinion, very toxic in the way she comes across, especially talking about her entanglements and and her relationship with him, it's I don't know. Which of course I think there's been a lot of speculations over the years that they have this open relationship.
That's
or
what I
whatever.
figured to say. Yeah.
But
So it's no surprise to me.
But even if that's the case, I feel like when it comes to stuff like that, it's never a mutual thing in the sense that it's not like, oh, we both want this. It's usually one person that wants that and then tries to convince the other person to do it. And if I had to guess which of the two wanted to have this quote unquote open relationship, I would say it's Jada. And Will didn't really have a choice, and he was like, well, if I'm gonna be with her, I gotta be open to this. And I think that he's just started doing it just because that was something that she wanted.
She wanted, yeah.
So to your point, I think it might just be that he's soft and he's willing to go along with it. And
but you know, there's all kinds of perspectives you can look at this. Like it's so much when you come to the Will Smith and Jada. I mean, it's just so much. Like so many stories, so many different headlines from rumors and speculations and allegations and stuff, allegedly like swinging. So you know, sometimes I think that she could put her stuff out there just to help cover up like other stuff they'll find out. Like put all the blame, all the views on her because of Tupac. And that way it'll take the light off of him, because eventually it's funny how this thing play out, because we heard about what she said about the book and about Tupac and stuff like that, right? Then after that, here comes this other story comes out by him and Dwayne Martin. So,
oh God.
So yeah. It's almost as if like she's trying to beat him to the punch and put something out so it'll help cover up the real topics that are coming out. Because Tisha, if you ever noticed, I don't know if you remember back in the day, a couple years ago, Lisa Ray McCoy and Tisha Campbell did say something about Dwayne Martin.
As far as what?
As far as them having, there was more than just friends. Dwayne Martin and Will Smith, yes.
Okay.
There was somebody was doing the bending and somebody was doing the giving, for the lack of words. Lord. But so I think a lot of that stuff has been playing in Hollywood. And so I think sometimes the wife doing her part to cover up that situation, because we all know they was in an open relationship. And you're not going to sit here and tell me that they're not playing that. Somewhere in that it had to go. Not everything is a rumor. Some of the stuff is probably true. It's going to surface down to us because of the internet. And that's all I'm going to say.
So you're saying that, you know, there's a good possibility.
Oh, yeah.
That Will goes both ways.
I think so. I think he did some things. You know, they always say you sold your soul to Hollywood. Yeah. He did some things, one-time things, and the things that he had chose to do at the time is coming back to haunt him. Because somebody wants a paycheck. Somebody has a story they want to publish. Somebody has something that they want, a tell-all book. And just what happened on one of those chapters about Will Smith. So I think what happened is, this just me, my opinion, because I'm reading between the lines. This is what I'm doing. So I'm thinking that before the story hits the surface, his wife said, before that happened, I'm going to air out my laundry first. That way all the focus won't be on him. It'll be on her. So they won't go so far digging up stuff about him, because he got some stuff out there as well. The kids, all of them, for the sake of the children, for the sake of the family, I think she took the L for the family and said, you know what? Let me write this book, tell about Tupac. It may make you look soft, but it's going to help save our family, because that'll take all the views off of him, because his career is still thriving. So they got to make money. They got kids. One day they're going to have grandkids, you know, so her career is shot. We all know that. So their only hope is Will Smith. So they can't tame him and kill him. Well, somebody got to make it in the household.
Well, you know, speaking of that, you know, there's that clip going around of Jaden Smith, like, you know, kind of gyrating behind Justin Bieber, and then Justin Bieber
that didn't mean nothing.
So not a big deal.
No, I'm honestly, to be honest with you, I didn't see nothing wrong with that. I really didn't, and this is just me, because they grew up different than you and I. Like, we grew up with a regular family, going to school, doing regular activities. These kids grew up in a glass house, so
I mean, but at the same time, though, I mean, whenever I come see you, or
no,
I don't come over.
No, we don't do that.
That's what I'm saying.
But I will say this: I mean, they grew up different because I think Jaden looks at Just as a big brother because they have a lot in common. They both in this place where they lean on each other, and I think a lot of times where Jaden was lost, I think Justin was there for him, and where he hugged him. Yes, he shouldn't have did it because somebody always have a camera, always posting something. And I think really it was just a brother love. And everybody knows Jaden is you know, we all know, he
goes both ways.
Exactly, too. Basically. And we all know Justin is married and he got his wife. And I think Justin has just a brotherly love for Jaden.
Now, to be honest, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Jaden went both ways. I mean, I wasn't really.
Yeah, he does. He does. He does. Like, he made it known. So it doesn't really matter about sexuality. I think he was just got a good friend. He haven't seen him in a minute because of everything that's going on in the world. Want to show him some love. And I think what happened was when he turned around, when Justin was trying to tell him something, just so happened his face or his neck was by his lips or something, and then the camera angle always make it look like something that's not. And so they probably zoomed in and got the picture, posted, then they ran with it. That's what I think what happened. I don't think anything. They got a brotherly love, man. It's like it's bromance.
Yeah.
On their level. Now we don't have that type of level of bromance.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so that's all it is.
Yeah. Don't come at me like that, bro.
No, man. Be good over here.
Oh, man.
Those lines will not be read between. Anyway.
But dude, I don't know if you've been keeping up with what's going on. It's been a very busy week, but I don't know if you've been keeping up with this whole Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. I know the last time, I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before that we talked about a little bit of the who was it? J. Cole diss track that he did coming at Kendrick. Now, we kind of delved into it a little bit, and we were like, yeah, I mean, they're just, trying to get attention, stay relevant, social media, kind of doing that, but, and we kind of said that, well, it's probably not personal. It's probably just all business. Dude, this ain't business. This is personal. Like, bro, man, look, like, I've been trying to keep up with it a little bit, and
I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced?
Because to me, honestly, read between the lines, bro. Because my thing is, first it was J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar, who it was, right?
So what happened was, apparently there's been like beef like
everywhere
for years. There's just been like these subliminal shots that they've been taking at each other. But I think it was on a song that had Metro Booming and Future. They did a collab album, and in one of the songs they had Kendrick featured, and he dropped some lines there talking about J. Cole and Kendrick and Drake.
Right.
So then a few days later, like a week later or whatever, J. Cole came and dropped a diss track, and everybody was talking about it. And then a few days later, J. Cole like apologized, and he was like, nah, this didn't sit well in my spirit, what I did. I love Kendrick. I don't feel right doing what I did. So he kind of backtracked that. And then you had Drake like dropped this, this track called Push Ups. I don't know if you heard it. Did you hear it?
No, I did not.
Dude.
Oh, yes, I did. I lied. Yes, I did hear it.
Yeah, so he drops Push Ups, and then right after he dropped Push Ups, what's his name?
Rick Ross.
Rick Ross drops Champagne Moments, which is a diss track towards Drake. And then there's another song with A$AP Rocky and The Weeknd going at Drake. And it's like all these dudes are ganging up on him. And then when that happens, I think it was yesterday or Friday night. Yeah. Drake drops another diss track. But it's like an AI diss track using Tupac's voice, Snoop's voice, and then he raps too, going back to Kendrick, and he plans on going at everybody else that's trying to like jump in the mix. And then I swear, as I was coming here, I hear that there's a remix track with with Kanye dissing Drake too. And I'm like, I think everyone's jumping in on, dude. And then on top of that, as if that isn't crazy enough, then you got Chris Brown going off at Quavo. I don't know if you heard that one.
I did. I heard it today at work.
I was like, wow. So, I mean,
it's too much, man. I just think it's immature. I really don't think, maybe because I'm showing my age, but I think it's just retarded. Honestly,
really?
I do, because all you doing is you're fueling a spirit. You're fueling something that is going to just keep growing and growing and growing. For what? What's the point? To me, this sounds like this is a bunch of millionaire problems. This is something to deal with egos and who got the hottest music, who got the hottest track, who got the most fans, who got the most money. That's all this is to me. Like I could care less, to be honest with you, but I think it's just stupid.
Well, I disagree. I'm here for it all, because as a hip hop fan, I grew up in hip hop. Like,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'm just joking. I knew that.
But when I hear like this, like, because I don't know if you ever watch battle rapping when they go at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's almost like a sport, and that's basically what's going on here. And and when they try to go at each other, like, yeah, I mean, it's an ego thing.
It is,
but at the same time, is like when it's part of hip hop when it comes to like battle rapping and going at each other to see who's the alpha. It's nothing new, but you don't want it to get to a point that is where actually people become violent or anything like that. But when you keep it, to the sport that it is, I think that can be fun, and see how they play on words and all that against each other. But I do think that there's a certain level of disdain that they have, because I don't know because there's a lot that happens behind closed doors that we don't know.
Correct.
But the fact that Drake has been able to like take on all these people, and everyone's still waiting on Kendrick. Like Kendrick, where you at? Like he hasn't responded at all. And when it comes to hip hop, like especially when it comes to this rap beefs, if you claim to be the top dog and you don't respond and you don't like come with bars, like you come across as weak. And I think right now everyone's waiting on Kendrick to respond. Now, to me, I see it as a sport, like two gladiators going at each other. And right now, to be honest, like there's not a whole lot going on in hip hop. Like there's nothing really out there that's really there's no real music out there. that's like great. So to see these people going at each other, at least in that way, is, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. Now, I don't know if it's because of the eclipse or what's going on or what's in the water that's causing everyone to just start these beefs. It's kind of crazy, but
It's an ego problem.
well, yeah, I mean, it's ego, but at the same
everybody
time,
wants to be on top.
yeah, but at the same time, if you're a fan of hip hop and you're accustomed to seeing from time to time these like battle raps happen, whether it's Nas and Jay-Z, or whether it's 50 Cent and Ja Rule, or now you've got Drake and Kendrick. I mean, from time to time, it's kind of cool to see that. Okay, they're willing to go at each other if need be when it comes to trying to say who's at the top.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Okay, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I mean, at the end of the day, honestly, I like every last one of them. I do.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna not like Kendrick Lamar because of this. I'm not gonna not like Drake because of that. So, at the end of the day, I don't lose any sleep.
Yeah, and it's not to say that you don't like them. It's just that
You're just entertaining for you.
Yeah, it's entertaining because like right now, like I said, there's not a whole lot going on in hip hop to be excited about, and the fact that they're going at each other is like,
But I will say that darn Chris Breezy, hey, he went in on Quavo.
Yeah, and see when I see stuff like that, I'm like, this can't just be for clicks. It's got to be personal. Because he was dropping names like
yes,
about
sleeping
his
with girlfriend, and
sweetie.
They sit me beside you at the fashion show, and so I guess this is beef that he been holding up for since then, the fashion show, and that's been what, months and months ago, right?
I didn't even know about that story. I didn't even know.
So what Chris Brown went in. He said, don't let the R&B fool you.
Yeah.
And that was, I ain't gonna lie, that was hot. It was clean with it. So I'm like, okay, Chris Breezy, you let him know who you are, bro. So
it's the same thing with Drake and Kendrick. It's the same sort of energy, but some people say that it all kind of stemmed from apparently Quavo dating Chris Brown's ex. Was it Karrueche? Was that her name?
Karrueche, yeah.
Apparently, after they broke up or whatever, then Quavo started seeing her, and I guess that didn't sit well with Chris Brown. And which, I mean, I don't know that they were ever close, but at the same time, when you're in that industry, you all kind of know each other. I would imagine,
right.
And I don't know. It would be like seeing one of my boys or like someone that I'm close to that I see on a regular basis dating my ex, or knowing that that's my ex, and of all people, that's what you're gonna go for. Like, really?
Yeah.
And maybe that kind of set everything off.
Yeah, probably so. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
That breeze, bro.
Man, but what else is going on in the news this week? I think I sent you something about this, but I know we talked about last week. I think it was, we talked about the women's basketball championship game. It was South Carolina against Iowa. Of course, South Carolina won, and they're the champions now. But all the storylines that I've been hearing, has to do with Caitlin Clark, the player for Iowa. And one of the things that was circulating in the news is that she's projected to be the number one pick in the WNBA's draft, which is later on this year, I think in May. And she's going to make a base salary of like $76,000 her rookie year. And I think the rookie contract, I think it's like 4 years. And every year goes up a little bit. And I think her fourth year, she's probably going to make around $95,000 for the season. Okay. Now, when you compare that to the number one draft in the NBA, which was last year was Victor Wembanyama, his salary was $12 million for year one, compared to $76,000 for Caitlyn in her year one.
Excuse me. Hold on.
Do you keep up with sports or anything like you? Probably.
I keep up with sports when Daniel talks about it.
Okay,
bruh. You mean to tell me they're gonna give this chick only $76,000 her first year?
Yeah.
And he got $12 billion in his first year.
No, $12 million.
$12 million,
yeah. But people are making a big fuzz out of that because they're saying there's this huge pay disparity between the two sports. Well, on paper, you would say, oh, yeah, of course, there's $12 million for this one guy. That's number one. And for Caitlyn, who's also number one in her sport, she gets $76,000. But there's a difference in the amount of revenue that each sport gets. So, for example, the WNBA last year, they made $200 million in revenue. The NBA, $10 billion in revenue. So, of course, the pay is going to be different. It's going to be different. You can't compare the two. So when people say, oh, why are they not paying women the same? Well, they're not making the same. The sport itself is not making enough money to pay them that type of money. Does that make more sense now?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So I think for people like, not to say that you don't know, but for people that don't know,
I don't know,
and they just hear the headlines, they think, oh my God,
soon
they're not paying women what they're supposed to, but if they realize, okay, well, they're not making as much. Now, just like any business, if you want the players to make more money, then you got to go to the games. You got to support the players. You got to buy the merch. You got to watch it on TV. You got to go to the arenas and everything and watch them play. And right now, people are not doing that for the WNBA. Most people don't even know how many WNBA teams are there, or they don't even know a single woman that plays in the WNBA. Do you?
No, sir.
That's my point. And the thing is that if women want to make more money in that space, there's got to be more interest in it.
That's good.
Now, I think that Caitlin Clark is going to bring in a lot of interest from her college days when she becomes a pro. But I think there's a lack of understanding when it comes to realizing why there is that such a gap. Just because overall, most people are not interested in the sport. Now, if you can create more interest, they'll make more, just like anything else for that matter. But it to me, it just kind of, I don't know. It kind of goes not just in sports, but when it comes to society as a whole. I feel like as a society as a whole, people tend to think that women make less money than men, and there's this pay gap between them. I don't know if you've heard that argument.
Yeah, that I did hear. Yeah,
and I mean, personally, I don't think it's valid, based on some of the things that I've come to know. But I mean, I don't know what you think.
I don't think it's valid either as well. I don't think it's true. I don't think it really matters to me. Like if she's making, like for instance, like you take a household, just to flip it a little bit, make it more realistic. Like if you have a household and the wife makes, I don't know, 85 grand a year, and then the husband makes 60,000 a year, will that be a problem?
Well, for some women that would be a problem, but that's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, for example, if if two people doing the same job,
Okay.
they ought to get paid the same. But a lot of women would argue, and a lot of people would argue that women are getting paid less to do the same job.
Right.
And I just don't think that's true. I mean, think about it. If women if women were getting paid less to do the same job, I mean, most employers will probably just hire women. Why pay men when you can pay women 25% less?
Yeah.
So, but not just that necessarily, but when I look at, for example, the type of jobs that men do versus women do, most men tend to go towards jobs that have to do with like technology or like engineering, stuff like that. Whereas women may, and I'm just talking in general terms, tend to go towards more like social sciences or like teaching, things in that realm. So of course, depending on what career choice you choose, you're gonna make more or less. So, like for example, men are more willing to do high risk jobs that women are not willing to do. So of course, a lot of these high risk jobs, like working at oil rigs or working in, I don't know, just this jobs that require a lot of training or being in dangerous situations. Men tend to kind of gravitate or do those jobs. So a lot of times they get paid more because of that, not necessarily because there's a difference in gender.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like even if you let women choose, and give them like you could be an engineer, you could be a teacher, you could be, even if you let them choose, they will still gravitate towards things that, are probably going to pay them less. And it's just because that's what they want to do, if women don't want to be, I don't know, engineers working off the Gulf of Mexico in this, like I said, like oil rigs or doing like tuna fishing in Alaska or something crazy like that, then that's cool. But at the same time, it may not necessarily pay the same when it comes to your earnings. Not to mention that women also get pregnant. So, of course, you may have to take time off if you're going to be doing any, raising children and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's just one of those things that it is what it is. But I think that sometimes people don't take some of these things into consideration when they talk about this like page gap. Because I can tell you for a fact that, in the places that I've worked, I've talked to people and, men and women, and I don't see the men making necessarily more overall. And in fact, nowadays you got more women than men in college, graduating from colleges, so and potentially earning more. So
That's true.
I mean, there's that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
But speaking of money, since we're kind of talking about that a little bit, I don't know if you saw that post of Mark Cuban where he was talking about, he put a post, I think it was on X, where he talks about being happy paying $275 million in taxes. Not only did he say he was happy to pay that, but he said next to serving in the military, that is the most patriotic thing you can do. That's what he said.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I mean, to pay that kind of money in 1 year in taxes, that means you gotta make like how much to pay that? Like over $1 billion in earnings?
You can about 1.5, 1.6
billion.
Yeah.
If you got to pay that much out. So
and he's happy to pay it.
He's happy to pay it.
So if he's happy to pay his $275 million in taxes, then that's probably like nothing to him. Probably. It's probably like, oh, no problem. Sure.
I mean, regardless of, if you're a millionaire or a billionaire or not, that's still a lot of bread.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to be shelling out to the government.
Yes.
And even the amount that we pay as, peasants, like it still hurts,
Yeah.
Like whenever I get paid, I don't even look at my paycheck. I honestly don't. Like I just look at what gets put into my bank account. Whatever shows up there, I just look at that. I don't even look at my pay stubs because it makes me angry. Like it just makes me sad to look at how much money.
Well, I look at mine. I like to see that stuff, and it makes you think like, dang, like
yeah,
wow, like you like we talked about a couple weeks ago about overtime. When you do like 10 hours of overtime, that's one thing, but anything after that, you're killing yourself because FICA is going to say thank you personally to you.
Yeah, FICA is living good.
Yeah, they're living real well. But when I get paid, I always check my stuff and see, what garnish is coming out, taxes, what's going into my, whatever it's going to, and seeing what it is and just looking at the difference. And especially like if I do extra days at work, I look at that paycheck, and then when I don't do extra days of work and look at the difference. And then I ask myself, is it really worth me coming in like early, or is it worth me just picking up extra hours to help out? Because at the end of the day, am I really benefiting from it?
Yeah, and the thing is that, Mark Cuban says, "Hey, I'm happy to pay this amount." Like I feel like I would feel better about what I pay if I knew exactly where it was going. If I knew for a fact that it was helping other people in my community, or let's say not just necessarily my community, but if I knew that someone in another state was benefiting from that money, then I wouldn't feel so bad about paying it.
Right.
But the problem is that one, we don't know where it goes, and two, when we see like how everything is so expensive, and we keep paying all these taxes and all this money, and we see like the government just kind of not doing anything. It's like, why are we paying you again? Like, what are we doing?
Remind me.
Exactly. So
Give me the rundown.
exactly, like if we had like a little checklist of like like whenever you support like an orphan or something like overseas, they give you a rundown of where your money goes to in
Right.
terms of like, okay, your money went to like help him with his school, like this amount went to feed him or whatever. Like if there was some kind of breakdown like that of, okay, this much money went to pay the roads or like to the school or whatever, then okay, I would feel more comfortable
Right.
and not be like, oh, there goes my taxes again, because you're helping your fellow American or whatever, whether it's like shelters or whatever. But the fact that we don't know and we just have to kind of deal with it, that's the part I think a lot of people like feel like some type of way about it,
Right.
And as a matter of fact, today, which kind of goes to what we're talking about a little bit, there was a foreign aid bill that just passed Congress. I don't know if you heard about that. Well, they tried to do this a few weeks ago, but they finally, I guess, passed the bill. But basically, let me see if I have it here, because this is according to the AP News. The House of Representatives, they passed a $95 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and other U.S. allies. And it says this decision came after months of political struggle and is expected to be signed by the president once it's passed through the Senate. So now it has to go to the Senate, and the Senate's going to vote on it. And then they plan to give it to the president so he can sign this bill of $95 billion. Now, the package includes $61 billion specifically to Ukraine, but it also has provisions for Israel and in Asia, and also there's like a provision to help with cybersecurity when it comes to like TikTok, apparently. But my thing is like, okay, so this kind of goes to what we're talking about. 95 billion would it be that we're spending, with 61 of those going specifically to Ukraine and that whole situation. Mind you, I don't know if you knew this, but I think we've given Ukraine already 100 billion already. So when you hear this, like, what do you think about?
Honestly, we just gave them, it was 100 billion, you say?
Yeah, about almost 2 years ago or something like that.
And now we got to give them what? How much more again?
Well, they're gonna get another 61 billion.
That's where our tax money going.
It will, part of it. I mean,
majority of it.
Well, that's the thing, because a lot of our money goes towards that. But the other thing is, in order to pay some of that, they have to borrow money. We don't have the money. It has to be borrowed in order to pay for it. And that's why you see, for example, the deficit, the U.S. deficit is like $33 trillion, So they have to borrow money to pay some of this because we don't necessarily have all of it. We use up everything that we have, that we've collected through taxes. But whatever we don't have collected through taxes, they have to find it from somewhere. And so they have to borrow it from other people. And the Federal Reserve, if I'm not mistaken, the way they get that money borrowed is they'll say, hey, here's a security, which is basically like a loan. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, Q, buy this security, but we'll pay you back with interest. So you say, okay, fine. So you buy the security from the government. Let's say it's $100. So now the government has your $100 that they can use for whatever, but they owe it to you, and they're going to pay you with interest eventually. So you have a security from the government. So they do this on a mass scale and with way, higher amounts in order to borrow money because they don't have it. And clearly they haven't raised enough in taxes to pay for it either. So 61 billion once again, and then everything else is being spent. But I don't know if you knew this, but there was, I think it was the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They, one of the reports, they said that it would take $20 billion to end homelessness in the U.S. If there was a one-time investment of $20 billion, you could end homelessness here in the U.S. Why hasn't that happened yet? Why we haven't spent $20 billion to end homelessness here in the streets of the United States of America, but somehow we've got $95 billion to give to Ukraine, Asia, Israel, and everybody else. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to me how many things that I feel like we could fix here if we just focus here.
That's sad if you think about it. But it makes you think, like, when you paying your taxes and stuff, where your money is going, but yeah, still you give your money away. It's almost if, like, if you're a household and you need stuff for your own house, but you won't fix it, but you go give your money to your person on the street.
Exactly.
You helping them.
Yeah.
To get from one point to get point B, but you still lacking at your own house. So I look at this the same scenario as if the U.S. got all this money, but they giving it away. But it's still, if they do what you just said with the amount of money we take that to take care of the homeless, why not do that? Like, what's the purpose? Like, why haven't they not did that?
Yeah, it boggles my mind. And to your point, that's a great analogy to look at it, because if your next door neighbor came knocking at your door and say, "Look, I've got problems with my I gotta get a new roof. It's gonna cost me $30,000 to get a new roof." Jesus. And it's like, man, I ain't really got the money, but it's starting to leak and this and that. Can you give me that money? And then you come over here and you're like, wait a minute. Let's say you were married and you had kids, right? And then now you have to have that conversation with your spouse, and you're like, well, the neighbor needs $30,000 to fix his roof. I know that we also need a roof, and I know that we're also trying to fix, the fence in the backyard that's completely open, and like we got like stray dogs and stuff like that coming into our backyard. I know we're gonna get a new fence. We also need a roof, and I think one of our pipes is leaking. And we only got about, 40 grand to spare in our savings. We could fix the roof. We could get a new fence, but our neighbor really needs it. Maybe we should give it to them. And if we don't have enough to fix our own stuff, well, we'll just go borrow it from the bank. That would make no sense.
I'm gonna be more realistic. I'm gonna be more transparent. That's one of the issues you have in a lot of churches. Like for instance, like you look at the church, always having a building fund. You know, as we grown up, they always had some type of money. You pay your tithe, you pay your dues in your church, and save money to go on a mission trip. So while we saving money to go on a mission trip, to go to India, other parts of the world, but we have missions here in our own hometown that we take care of. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I see a lot in different churches, like they always raising money just to do some type of orphanage or going across to America, going across the country, doing a missions trip for like 2 or 3 months. But yet, you going over to save the world. But why not save people here in your own town?
Well, and that's a great point. Churches do that.
Yeah, and and I think that's another issue that a lot of people have with paying their money in church, because why should I pay you my money in church when you're going to take this money and use it for a mission trip that you've been planning for months? But here I am. I'm gonna give you my money because that's the right thing to do. But then a couple weeks later, I need to call the church to get assistance because now my water about to get turned off. So I need some help paying my electric bill or my water bill. And they tell me, no, they can't do it.
Yeah.
So then it pushes it
but
back.
There's money for missions.
But there's money for missions to go across the world to save the world. But I'm giving you my money to go across the world to save the world. But you telling me no because my water about to get turned off on Monday, and today is Thursday.
Yeah. It's a bit backwards, and just like, obviously each society, everything starts at the home, the nuclear home. You got the family, then you got the community, then you got state, you got the country. But everything starts in, the family is like the first unit that everything starts from. So I cannot help nobody else if I don't have my family, if I don't have my house in order. You know what I'm saying?
And that's biblical.
Exactly. Yeah. If I'm going to help my neighbor, I got to make sure that I've got things taken care of, on the home front before doing so. So even when it comes to missions, because the same principle applies, I'm not against it. I'm not against helping other countries or giving them money or resources for that matter. But how can we do that in good conscience and forget our fellow man that's here, that we literally walk by every single day?
And that's my song right there. It's like, I don't mind giving missions. I don't mind signing up to give this, each one teach one, or whatever the case may be. But don't ignore the guy down the street that he came to you several times needing something, but you overlook him, but yeah, instead you want the money to go across the country. So that's my problem. Like, I don't mind giving for the mission trip, but let me know where the money is going. Like, if you had to split it up, say, okay, look, if you give an X amount of dollars, then our percentage of it goes to mission trip, and then here's another percentage going towards, homeless or single moms, single fathers, children with no parents. Now we're gonna start some type of ministry or some type of a foundation to help single moms, unwed mothers, or something like that, or going back to school or something like that. If you got some type of a list where you see progress on both ends, whether it's mission trip across the world and people here in our own town, I think that's great.
Now, it's there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be
that's true.
Poor people,
Every rose have its thorn.
people in need. There's always going to be those people, and you know, I'm not saying that people overseas do not need help or shouldn't have our help. But just like in your house, if you had children, if you were married with children, you will not let your children starve or go without shoes or clothing. Even if you were trying to help some homeless kid out there, you will not help a homeless kid out there before your own kid, because your kid is more important. Not that it doesn't mean you don't care about the kids out there, but you're not going to feed that kid out there first before feeding your own. And I think when you extrapolate from that and you look at it from a more macro standpoint, we shouldn't be, doing all these things and putting all this money out to the world. We're not even taking care of our own.
Yeah.
We got kids that can't even read.
Yeah.
They're graduating high school, can't even, they can even like form a whole paragraph. Can't even read. Like I said, you got so many people that are homeless, can't even afford a decent apartment or a house because they're being priced out because of the inflation and everything else. And
not just the homeless people, but the retirees, like people who retired, like disabled, handicapped. It goes beyond just homeless people. But
yeah,
I mean, there's moms, there's people in general that retired and they in fear for their future because with everything that's going on in the world, the prices, everything, the inflations keep going up, but if their pay is decreasing but the medicine that they may need can increase. The insurance is getting lower, so they at a standstill. Like, okay, what should I do? Like, do I get this medicine that I'm gonna need to take starting next month in May, or in order to live, or try to get something that's as close to being what I need, but something a little bit not as good as what I can get, but I can try it, but it's not even gonna work because what they really need, they don't have the money to get it. So they had to make a decision like, okay, should I get this medicine or should I not get this medicine?
And that's why, I don't believe in just handing out money. Like, I feel like, first of all, if you're capable of working, you should work. But if you're in dire straits or you're in a situation where you don't have the means for whatever reason, and the government has to step in or whatever, then I'm okay, in those situations, even if it's short term. But the idea that we don't have the money, one of the things that I've come to find out is that, the money's definitely there. When they say there's no money, the money's there because they print it out of the thin air. So the money's there. It's just they choose not to use it for the right reasons. I mean, and for example, like when you got that situation in Hawaii, I don't know, did you hear about that? The fires in Hawaii that burned all those houses and those communities in Maui? Bruh, where you been, man? So yeah, there was this huge fire that took out a bunch of communities in Maui. And there's a lot of Hawaiians that became instantly homeless because all their houses burned down.
Okay, I do remember seeing something about that.
And like, I don't know if you remember like seeing like The Rock and Oprah trying to raise money or whatever.
Yeah, I do remember. Okay, yeah.
And people were like, why are you asking for money? You rich.
Yeah.
Why don't you just give it to them yourself?
Yeah.
And they made a big fuss about that. But the point is that at the time, the government said, well, we're going to give you like $700 per person to cover, you know, your losses or whatever. $700 a person. That's nothing. I mean, you can't replace anything with $700. And a lot of those people are having a hard time trying to rebuild their homes as a result of that. So my thing is like, okay, where's the fun? Where is the $1 billion to help Hawaii, which is a freaking state, you know, like, and they just went through this whole like, you know, catastrophic, you know, situation with those fires. So when I see stuff like this, which by the way, this bill, this House bill, they passed it today on a Saturday when no one's watching, no one's paying attention, nobody cares, and no one's really going to pay attention to it because it's on the weekend. But they kind of sneak it in like that because no one's going to really talk about it, but we're talking about it. And you've got so many other things that I feel like we could be taking care of here at home. But, you know, it is what it is. And I just feel like we need to do better.
I agree.
But, bro, we've been kind of going on for an hour and 11. But I wanted to leave with one more thing because I think you mentioned this. But this whole Dubai thing that has been going on, like this flooding that's been going on in Dubai, which is unprecedented. Like, there's literally like the streets are looking like rivers. You know, I mean, I don't know if you saw like there's actually
I couldn't help but to see this. Like this was thrown at you. Like you have no choice but to see this. That blew my mind. Like of all places, Dubai. And cloud seeding. Yeah. I never heard of cloud seeding before. And they've been doing it for over 11 years.
Well, I didn't know it was going on for that long, but I have seen videos where they talk about they manufacture these clouds in order to make it rain because obviously it's the middle of the desert. Yeah. It doesn't rain. So
wow, Mike.
So they're able to create these clouds that allow it to rain in the middle of the desert. But my understanding is that, they've been able to do that, but they don't have the infrastructure, the draining system to kind of compensate. And I guess that's where the problem happened. But I've seen like all these like supercars riding on top of these like
boats,
like inflatable boats is crazy. Did you see that?
Yes, that's how you know they got money.
Yeah,
because if it was me. Screw the car. Listen, we're going to safety. We're going to rescue. We can call the insurance company and do it from anything from that point. But these cats got daggone cyber trucks, everything on boats floating with them. And the poor little animal just hanging on to their lives, trying to keep from drowning. You know, it's just wild. Like when I saw that story, that was stood out to me. It's just that Dubai, like I never heard anything about no cloud seeding before.
Well, and that's the thing about social media nowadays, because stuff like this you would never find out about. Like, and the fact that it takes situations like this to really find out was at the root of it, you're like, wow. Which I didn't realize that you could manipulate the weather like that. You know, make it rain on command or like whatever. Obviously, it kind of went haywire.
They say Dubai is man-made. Majority of it from.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Everything, the clouds, everything is man-made. So I was just lost for words. I couldn't get over it. Like I was at work, sitting in the parking lot. And just glued to the phone, like what? Like this got to be a movie stunt. Yeah, but this was reality. I'm like, this is crazy, and I started seeing these videos, and of course on TikTok, you know, then I saw it just how people was in tragic because of the clouds seeding.
Now, not to get all like conspiracy theory or anything, but like it makes you do wonder though, if they're able to manipulate the rain. I mean, what else are they able to manipulate? I mean, what what other technologies there are out there that they're able to manipulate in terms of the weather? I mean, does this also apply to like tornadoes, earthquakes? Like, what else are they able to manipulate that we don't know about?
Yeah.
I don't think most people knew that you can manipulate the weather to begin with by doing this cloud seeding situation. So if such technology is out there being used out in the open, what kind of technology is there out that we don't know about that they may be capable of?
I think it's possible.
Well, for that, you guys are gonna have to tune in to next episode. But yeah, man, I think that's all we got today. Thanks everybody for paying attention, to being here with us. As always, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all the socials, and I guess we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.